transcreate, which means use local expressions, not word-by-word translations from English that make no sense in the language.
How do you approach local SEO for enterprise brands, with hundreds and thousands of locations?
And this is one of the mistakes that people usually do, thinking branding is for marketing.
Any unique technical SEO challenges, which multi-location brands face compared to single location brands?
One of the biggest issues that does come down to technical SEO, although not very obvious, is brand.
What are like some of the most common technical SEO mistakes you've seen in your organization, which have kind of negatively impacted their Google ranking? Hello and welcome to the Agency Growth Lab. I'm your host Shivaji Sikdar, and today we are thrilled to have a very special guest joining us, Roxana Stingu, a renowned expert in digital marketing and SEO. So Roxana is here today to share her insights and experiences with us. Welcome to the show, Roxana. How are you?
Hi, glad to be here. Hello, everybody.
So Roxana, really quick, can we get to know your technical background and how you get started in SEO?
Sure. How much time do we have for that? I'm kidding, of course. I'll try to keep it brief. I've actually started about, I think it's closer to 16 years now, as a link builder for a company in the US. I was in Romania at that time because I'm Romanian. And I did that for a few years because that's what everybody was doing back then. It was, it was so simple. You'd be able to calculate how many backlinks you would need to be able to take over your competitor in the search results, for instance. But that started to not work as well anymore. So I figured out, wait, there's more about SEO than just building links. So I started looking into it, got a job as a junior SEO, and I think I was stuck in reporting for about 2 years, which at that point I dreaded because I thought, oh, this is the worst. But I actually realized it was the best thing that could have happened to me because that reporting developed my analytical skills that make me a better SEO today. And just grew through the ranks, I guess. I worked 10 years in the web hosting industry. I started with a UK company. It was called Web Fusion, but that went through a lot of transformations, different acquisitions. It was acquired by a German group called Host Europe, and later on, it was acquired by GoDaddy because they wanted a European presence, and we were quite strong there. So they thought, you can beat them, join them. So we just merged and became a bigger company. So that was the last company I worked in for web hosting. And then after that, I wanted to do something completely different. And I met Alamy, where I'm doing image search, specifically something I didn't know anything about before, but I want to believe I know a lot now because I had to. And it's a massive enterprise website. Alamy is a stock photography and video agency. We have close to 400 million assets, both images and videos. So you can imagine the website is massive, and we also have it in 4 different languages. So it all adds up. And this is where, even though I was working as a technical SEO before, this is where I really had to refine my skills because with websites this big, technical is everything, right? And here we are now.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for the excellent insights, Roxana. So, really quick, can we get to know your technical background? And, can you also tell us a bit more about Alamy?
Yeah. I already kind of did an intro there, but from a more technical point of view, I guess I can kind of tell you that one of our biggest things that we look at is crawl budget, which I know a lot of people talk about, but they don't really need to worry about it. For us, because of our size, it's one of the things we always have on our minds. It's also about e-commerce, because we are an online e-commerce platform. And one of the things that is probably not common to SEOs is the fact that I'm also the head of search. And this is not paid search, this is actually website search. So our own internal search engine to find any of our 400 million products. I head that area as well. And I'm actually, working with my tech teams to always improve our internal search engine. And I guess, you start as an SEO, you look at search engines, and then you kind of can evolve into pretty much a lot of different areas, including an e-commerce search engine. Why not?
That's great. That's really some helpful insights about Alamy. So can you please tell me like how have Google's core web vitals, impacted technical SEO and, any effective ways, to improve these metrics?
It's I if you listen to some of my past talks, I kind of hint at core web vitals being taken more seriously than it should have been by SEOs. And I'm not saying speed is not important, because it is very important. I'm just saying I think we got scared and we all went to our developers and said, just fix this, just do this, without us actually looking at, do we need to do it? Is it actually a problem, or are we just doing it because Google scared us, right? Um, Speed is important in general. From an e-commerce point of view, if you're trying to sell online, you have a digital presence, you want users to have the best experience on your website, which means fast loading pages, quickly responsive actions on the website. You don't want to click a button and wait 3 seconds for anything to happen. So I can completely understand why Google said, right, these are some metrics that can help you measure that type of experience for users. But I think what SEOs heard is implement this or die, pretty much, right? Because that was
True.
so serious how everybody just kind of took it. So what I would say is, of course, if you can improve your speed, do it. Not because Google said so, but because you want to offer your users the best experience you can. And then use the core web vitals as a guideline of which metrics should you measure to know if you've improved your experience enough, because you
Yeah.
can measure so many different things, even in rendering, right? You have like first paint and all the stuff. So I find core web vitals as a simple way for you to focus on some main metrics that measure that experience throughout without you having to measure 20 different things.
Right. Right. Interesting. Interesting. So what are like some of the most common technical SEO mistakes you've seen in the organization, which, have kind of negatively impacted their Google rankings?
um Oh, this is a hard one. We try not to do those, right? That's why there's an internal SEO team, so we can avoid those, anticipate any kind of changes where maybe we're not as fit as we should, so we can improve that. But generically speaking, I think one of the biggest issues that does come down to technical SEO, although not very obvious, is branding. And I'm going to explain why. Because you might think branding is marketing. What does technical SEO have to do with it? But look at the emergence of AI-based search engines, and they need to collect data in a way that they can understand what the data is about. So it comes down to structured data, which is a technical SEO thing. It's also about what information do other websites have about your company, and is that consistent all over for these search engines to understand that this is the information they should return whenever somebody is asking about you. And that kind of comes down to knowledge graph. So for me, branding is a very technical SEO thing. And this is one of the mistakes that people usually do, thinking branding is for marketing only and technical SEOs have nothing to do with it.
Right. Right. Interesting information. So are there, any unique technical SEO challenges, which multi-location brands face compared to single location brands or businesses?
Um, yes, because if you're an international business, and you're trying to cover more markets than just one, then you have to be careful when you optimize that. Whatever you do for your English speaking markets, for instance, might not work as well in other languages. So there's that old thing, especially in content, that says don't just translate, transcreate, which
Right.
means use local expressions, not word by word translations from English that make no sense in that language, and kind of use the type of language that would make sense to those people instead of just translating from English. And it makes sense if you look at it from a user point of view. If I read something in my own language, I want it to sound like it's my language. I don't want it to sound forced and fake because it was translated from a different language. So
Right.
that's one of the biggest things. Another one is using hreflangs. Apparently, there's um, a lot of mistakes happening around this when it's supposed to be quite simple what they do and why they exist. But I can still see a lot of mistakes on the web, and I think I can't remember who he was. Maybe Patrick Stocks. He did like a top technical SEO problems he's seeing around the web, and wrong hreflangs were like in top 5. So people do get them wrong quite a bit. Um, but then consistency in information. If you have different phone numbers for every location, make sure that's clear in every language so people can contact you easily and not get a US number if they're in France, for instance, because nobody wants to call that. And I guess the translation part is the biggest one, because you want to make people feel like their website was built for them and not a copy of your English website, which happens unfortunately quite a lot.
Thanks. So, Roxana, can you quickly tell me, how do you approach local SEO for enterprise brands, with hundreds and thousands of locations? If you could give us any tips for managing local citations, reviews, or, any content scale. So, if you could give me your insights on that.
Unfortunately, no. I've always done digital products, so never physical ones with physical locations. Always been, online e-commerce. So even though I might have an idea, I'm not the best person to talk about it. I'm sure just the viewers now, there might be better people to talk about it. So I'm not even going to try. The only thing I would say, if you have thousands of locations and you need to do kind of programmatic content where you just have a template and you just change a few words here and there to match the locations, I know that's not good user experience, and I know Google doesn't like it. Users don't necessarily like it. So if you can do anything about that content to make it a bit more specific to the location and less like a template, I think that would be my best advice.
Right. Right. So, what, according to you, are the key elements which should be there in a local SEO location pages, to rank in better in Google?
Let's skip the local SEO questions. I don't want to, give basic advice when I know other people will know way more about this.
Sure. So, you know, so what do you think how AI can help us, as SEOs to do our task quicker these days? So are you guys using any AI tools in your organizations as well?
Now, here's a question I can answer for sure. I'm a big fan of automating things and being as efficient as possible, mostly because I'm quite a lazy person and I don't like to do the same task twice if I can avoid it. And I call this constructively lazy, right? So out of my laziness, I build things that can do work for me so I don't have to do it, or it gives me time to do other new work that I haven't done before. And I think AI is one of the best tools we have to kind of automate and be able to take over some of these mundane tasks that nobody wants to do. Of course, one of the most used is ChatGPT, because it can do so much from generating code, doing SQL, so I don't have to write it. It writing scripts that I can use. Like for instance, I do a lot of automation in Google Sheets with AppScript, but I don't have the patience to write it. But ChatGPT helps me and does it quite fast for me. To even writing any kind of text. I might put down some ideas, but use ChatGPT to polish them for me, so I don't have to waste time to do the proofreading. So all sort of efficiency and automations coming out of that. From an SEO point of view, I know there's a lot of tools that can help with keyword research. They do keyword clustering, they pull out intent. You can even get sentiment right from text and keywords. And for anybody watching now, if you want a good list of all these different tools that can help you with your SEO, There's been a very recent webinar on Moz. It was ran by Chima, and she invited Mike King to talk about 101 AI tools he uses for SEO. So that webinar is pure gold. Just find it. It's a long list of all these AI tools and what you can use them for. And some of them are free, some of them are paid, but I think it's just so good. I recommend just going through that list to get new ideas of how you can use AI if you haven't used it much.
Right, right. That's really interesting. So, just quickly, what do you think is the best way to create content briefly, outline these days, before starting to write an article?
You can use AI for sure if you want to, but I think the problem with using AI, if you just go generic and say, I want to write an article about X, give me an outline, it will kind of give you an outline that's a bit of a summary of everything that already exists. So you're not really coming up with a brand new angle. You're just, I don't want to say recycling because you're not actually reusing existing content, but because large language models learn from what exists on the web, their responses will be quite similar to what already exists, right?
Right,
So then if you go very broad, you will get the same stuff that's already out there. So then you're competing with similar stuff, maybe from bigger websites, you don't really have a chance. What I tend to do if I'm trying to write something and kind of get some ideas, I put a lot of my ideas in as well. So I can personalize the output. So I go in and I say, I want to write an article about X and I need an outline, but I want to see it from this angle, or I want it focused on this other thing. So
right,
then it comes out more specific to my vision rather than generic to everything that already exists. So that would be my tip if you want to do quick articles, pour in some of your ideas in the prompt when you ask, any AI to kind of give you that outline. We know search engines, and I'm going to specifically talk about Google because they're more vocal about this. They have no problem in you using AI to create your articles. Their problem is with how you use it and the quality of what you're generating. But the more unique ideas you put in that prompt, the more unique that article will be, and you're not going to have a problem that AI wrote it for you.
right, right. Awesome. Just a very final question, Roxana. What kind of advice would you want to give to the people who have just started in SEO?
Oh, well, my favorite people. Be prepared. You're going to be in for a ride. You've probably seen your more senior SEO people around, and you thought, well, this is a cool job. I want to do this. And this is why you're now doing SEO. But just be aware, you'll get to a point where you're going to think, oh my God, there's so much to learn. I have no time. And you're going to start panicking. But you don't have to. You don't have to learn everything. You don't have to know everything. You're a junior. So focus on three big areas that you find really exciting and just spend some time with those. And once you think you master them or you got better at them, pick another three and focus on those. Because otherwise, there's so much information in all these different areas. Like you asked me about local, and I don't know much just because in my 16 years career, I haven't had much opportunity to work local, right? So it's fine. You don't have to know everything, but focus on a few things at once. Try to get good at them and then move on and focus on a few other things. And this way, you will be able to advance faster and without the panic of so much information out there.
Thank you for that amazing advice, Roxana.
You're
And
very welcome.
just finally, in case anyone wants to connect with you, know more about you, what's the best way to reach out to you? Is that on LinkedIn, YouTube, or your blog, or anywhere else?
I'm on X or Twitter, if we're still calling it that, and you can just find me, Roxana Stingu, and also on LinkedIn, of course, same name. So any of these two platforms, feel free to reach out if you have any questions or I can help in any way. I'd be happy to.
Thank you so much for that information. All right, so I'll put these links in the video description once the video goes live, Roxana. It was a great time talking to you and great to know you as a person. I wish you all the very best for your future endeavors.
Great to meet you as well.
Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. Have a great day ahead. Bye bye.
Thank you, you too.